I'm standing on my porch in nothing but boxers and an old army t-shirt, staring down 3 cops with flashlights and my neighbor Karen filming everything on her phone. The October wind cuts right through me, but what really burns is watching her record this whole mess like it's some kind of reality show. "Officer, there he is." Karen's voice carries that shrill pitch she saves for maximum drama. This psychopath was mowing his lawn at 11 at night, waking up the entire neighborhood. The lead cop looks from my push mower sitting innocent on the porch to me, then back to his notepad. "Sir, we received a noise complaint about excessive disturbance after hours." I run my hand through my graying hair. "Officer Martinez, right? I recognize you from Murphy's Diner. Look, I was just trying to get some yard work done after my shift. Didn't realize it was that late." Karen steps closer, still filming. Her pink cardigan makes her look like an oversized marshmallow, but there's nothing soft about those calculating eyes. "He's been terrorizing this neighborhood for weeks, playing loud music, running power tools at all hours." "Ma'am, please step back," Officer Martinez says, but Karen's already launched into her performance. "I have rights. We all have rights to peace and quiet." She's practically bouncing on her toes now. This man clearly has no respect for community standards. You ever notice how some people turn a simple noise complaint into a federal case? Karen's one of those. I watch her work these cops like she's conducting an orchestra, and something cold settles in my gut. This isn't just about a late-night mow job. Officer Martinez closes his notepad. "Mr. Hawkins, we'll let this slide with a warning, but please keep noise to reasonable hours." "Of course, officer. Won't happen again." Karen's face goes red. "A warning? That's it? What about my sleep? What about my property values?" As the cops walk away, Karen lingers on my sidewalk, phone still recording. The porch light catches her bleached hair, and I see something in her expression that makes my skin crawl. Pure satisfaction, like she just won round 1 of a fight I didn't even know we were having. "Enjoy your warning, Mike," she calls out sweetly. "Next time, it won't be so easy." The way she says it, like she's already planning something, sends a chill down my spine that has nothing to do with the cold wind. I close the door and lean against it, listening to her heels click away on the pavement. Through the window, I watch her march to her house with that same satisfied swagger. The security light at her front door illuminates another figure, someone who looks exactly like Karen, right down to the pink cardigan. Wait, 2 of them? My wife Susan's going to get a kick out of this when she gets home from her dispatch shift, but something tells me this midnight visit was just Karen's opening move. The question is, what's she really after? The house feels too quiet now, and I can't shake the feeling that Karen's still out there, planning her next performance. What would you do if your neighbor turned a simple noise complaint into what felt like a declaration of war? The morning sun barely breaks through the clouds when I find the envelope. Red wax seal, fancy letterhead that screams, "Official business," and my name typed in bold letters like a court summons. I tear it open right there on the porch, still in my robe, coffee mug steaming in the cold air. Homeowner Association Violation Notice. Urgent action required. The words hit like a slap. Since when do we even have a homeowner association? I've lived on Maple Street for 15 years, and nobody ever mentioned any association. I scan down to the signature line, and there it is. Karen Mitchell, chairwoman. The ink's still fresh on her new title, and she's already wielding it like a weapon. The violation? My unauthorized workshop operation in the garage. Apparently, the sound of industrial equipment disturbs the residential aesthetic of our neighborhood. $500 a day until I remove all non-conforming materials and machinery. $500 a day for my woodworking bench and drill press. But here's what really gets me. The signature section at the bottom. 23 names from our street, all voting to support enhanced community standards. Every single neighbor I've helped over the years. Ted Morrison, whose fence I fixed after last winter's storm. Mrs. Patterson, whose driveway I've been shoveling for 3 years running. Even young Jim Bradley from the corner house. My hands shake a little as I read their names. These people know me. They've borrowed my tools, asked for help with their gutters, invited me to backyard barbecues. It's seed, damaged trust. Seed, mysterious twin. Seed, financial pressure. Susan's car pulls into our driveway just as I'm reading the letter for the third time, hoping the words might change. She works the night shift at County Dispatch, usually gets home around 7:30 looking like she's seen everything the world can throw at a person. "Morning, handsome." She kisses my cheek, smells like coffee and stress. "You look like someone stole your dog." I hand her the letter without a word. Her expression shifts as she reads, from tired to confused to angry. 500 a day? Are they insane? She flips to the signature page. "Mike, this is half our street. What's going on?" That's what I'd like to know. Susan studies the letterhead closer. When did Karen become chairwoman of anything? Last I heard, old Mr. Peterson ran the loose neighborhood committee, and that was just for the annual block party. Check the date on this thing. She looks. Yesterday. Mike, this association was formed yesterday, and they're already finding people. The coffee in my mug's gone cold, but I take a sip anyway. Bitter, like everything else this morning. She moved fast, real fast. Too fast. Susan's got that look she gets when she's working a puzzle. 20 years dispatching emergency calls teaches you to spot patterns. Nobody organizes this kind of paperwork overnight. Someone's been planning this. Through our kitchen window, I see Karen's house. Same pink shutters, same perfect lawn, same smugness radiating from every blade of grass. But now, I notice something I missed in the dark last night. 2 cars in her driveway. Identical silver sedans parked like mirror images. "Susan, you ever see Karen with a sister?" She follows my gaze. "Sister? Karen's got family in town?" Could have sworn I saw 2 women last night. Looked exactly alike. Susan squints across the street. "Huh. Come to think of it, I did see 2 women at the grocery store last week. Thought maybe I was seeing double after a long shift." The phone rings, and Susan answers with her professional voice. "Hawkins residence." Her face changes as she listens. "When? How many signatures? Are you sure about that?" She hangs up and turns to me with an expression I've learned to fear. "That was Ted Morrison. He wants to apologize." My neighbor Ted's been living on this street longer than anybody. 72 years old, built like a scarecrow, but with hands that still remember 40 years of construction work. If Ted signed that petition, he had a reason. But what kind of reason makes a man turn on his neighbors overnight? Ted's standing at my front door looking like he aged 10 years overnight. His flannel shirt hangs loose on his frame, and those weathered hands that once swung hammers for a living are trembling like autumn leaves. "Mike, He can't meet my eyes. Can we talk, please?" I step aside to let him in. Susan pours him coffee without asking. Black, no sugar, the way he's taken it at every neighborhood barbecue for the past decade. "I know what you're thinking," Ted starts, his voice barely above a whisper. "Saw my name on that paper." "Yeah, I saw it." I sit across from him at the kitchen table. "Question is why?" Ted stares into his coffee like it might have answers. $800? What? "That's what I owe for the community fence repair. The one that runs behind all our properties?" His voice cracks. "Karen came by 3 days ago with receipts, said it was my responsibility since my section got damaged in that storm last March." I remember that storm. 70-mile-an-hour winds took down half the trees on our street. Ted's fence section didn't just get damaged, it got obliterated. But we all pitched in to help him rebuild it. "Ted, we fixed that fence together, remember? You, me, Jim, even Mrs. Patterson helped paint." That's what I told her. His hands shake harder now. But she had these official-looking papers. Said the community association voted to retroactively bill property owners for improvements. $800 due immediately, or they'd put a lien on my house. Susan and I exchange glances. The puzzle pieces are starting to fit together, and the picture isn't pretty. "She offered me a deal," Ted continues. "Signed the petition supporting community standards, and she'd forgive the debt. Said it was just about maintaining property values, nothing personal." Payoff, financial pressure. "Ted, there was no community association 3 days ago." "I know that now." He finally looks up, and I see something in his eyes I've never seen before. Shame. "But Mike, I'm on a fixed income. $800 might as well be $8,000. My pension barely covers the mortgage as it is." The coffee mug rattles against the table as he sets it down. "I'm sorry. I'm so damn sorry. But I couldn't lose my house." Susan leans forward. Ted, what exactly did Karen show you? These receipts? Fancy papers with numbers, some kind of contractor's bill. Said the work was done by authorized community vendors and had to be paid for collectively. Did you recognize the contractor's name? Ted squints, trying to remember. Something with Mitchell in it. Mitchell Construction Services, maybe? Susan and I lock eyes again. Mitchell, Karen's married name. Ted, I say carefully, did Karen mention anything about other neighbors, other debts? His face goes pale. She said Mrs. Patterson owed $600 for unauthorized room rental violations. Jim Bradley owed $400 for unsightly vehicle storage, his work truck in his own driveway. Said she was being generous, giving everyone a chance to make things right by supporting the new community standards. The room goes quiet except for the tick of our kitchen clock. Outside, I can hear a lawnmower starting up, probably Karen, making sure her grass stays perfect while she destroys everyone else's life. How many neighbors did she visit, Ted? I don't know, but Mike... He stands up slowly, like his bones hurt. She's got a whole binder full of violations. Pictures, receipts, legal papers, and she's got help. Help? Her sister, Linda, I think, looks exactly like Karen, talks exactly like her. They work like a tag team. One distracts you while the other takes notes, photos, measurements. Payoff, mysterious twin. Susan's dispatch training kicks in. Ted, did you see this Linda woman before this week? Never. But Karen introduced her as her business partner in the new Community Improvement Initiative. Business partner. I think about those identical cars in Karen's driveway, the perfect coordination of last night's police visit, the overnight creation of a homeowner association with legal-sounding paperwork. This isn't just about my lawnmower or my workshop. Karen and her twin sister have been planning something bigger, a systematic takeover of our entire neighborhood, using fake debts and manufactured violations to force compliance. Ted reaches the door and turns back one more time. Mike, there's something else? Karen asked me about your wife's work schedule, wanted to know when Susan was on shift, when you'd be home alone. The door closes behind him with a soft click, but the sound echoes in my head like a gunshot. Why would Karen need to know when I'd be alone? The community center smells like burnt coffee and old carpet, but tonight it feels like a courtroom. 23 neighbors pack the folding chairs, all eyes on the front table where Karen sits like a judge in her pink blazer. Next to her, an identical woman in an identical blazer shuffles through papers with mechanical precision. Linda Mitchell, Karen's twin sister, and apparently her partner in this whole operation. I'm the only one standing. Every other person who signed that petition is here, looking anywhere but at me. Mrs. Patterson studies her purse like it contains the secrets of the universe. Jim Bradley checks his phone every 30 seconds. Ted Morrison might as well be a statue. Thank you all for attending this emergency session, Karen announces, her voice carrying that artificial sweetness that makes my teeth ache. We're here to address the ongoing violations by Mr. Hawkins and his refusal to comply with community standards. Linda stands up, and the resemblance is unsettling. Same bleached blonde hair, same pink outfit, same dead fish eyes. But where Karen radiates calculated charm, Linda feels like a corporate efficiency expert. All business, no warmth. The evidence speaks for itself, Linda says, opening a thick binder. Noise violations documented at 11:47 p.m. on October 15th. Unauthorized commercial workshop operating without permits. Property modifications completed without Architectural Review Board approval. Architectural Review Board? I can't help myself. Since when do we have an Architectural Review Board? Karen's smile could cut glass. Since responsible neighbors decided to protect their investments, Mr. Hawkins, perhaps if you'd attended our organizational meetings. What organizational meetings? You formed this association yesterday. Actually, Linda interrupts, consulting her papers, the Maple Street Community Association was legally incorporated 6 weeks ago. All residents were notified via certified mail. 6 weeks ago, while I was working double shifts to pay for Susan's mom's medical bills, while Susan was pulling overtime at dispatch because they were short-staffed, we probably missed half our mail. Payoff damaged trust. Mrs. Patterson finally speaks up, her voice barely audible. Karen, maybe we should discuss this privately. Mike's been a good neighbor." "Has he?" Karen's voice sharpens. "Mrs. Patterson, didn't you tell me just last week about the noise from his workshop? The sawdust blowing onto your property?" Mrs. Patterson's face goes red. I mentioned it in passing, but I never said—" "And Jim," Linda continues seamlessly, "you expressed concerns about property values with that industrial equipment visible from the street." Jim Bradley looks up from his phone, confused. "I said his workshop looked professional. That was a compliment." Karen and Linda exchange a glance, and I see something that makes my blood run cold. They're not just twins, they're synchronized. Every gesture, every expression, perfectly coordinated like they've been practicing this routine. "The point is," Karen continues, "we have documented concerns from multiple residents. The association has voted, and the violation stands. $500 per day until compliance." "I want to see the incorporation papers," I say. "I want to see the certified mail receipts. I want to see everything." Linda slides a folder across the table. Of course, transparency is important. I flip through the documents and my heart sinks. Everything's there. Incorporation papers, mailing receipts, even photos of violations. Professional letterhead, legal language, official seals. Either these women hired the best forger in the state or— "Mitchell Construction Services," I read from one of the invoices. "That's your company?" "My husband's company," Karen corrects. "Completely legitimate, fully licensed." "And these community improvement projects you're billing everyone for?" "Necessary maintenance that benefits all residents. The fence repairs, landscaping improvements, street cleaning services." I look at the photos clipped to the invoices. Ted's fence looking perfect. Mrs. Patterson's driveway freshly sealed. Jim's lawn professionally edged. Work I remember helping with. Work we all did together as neighbors. But in these photos, there are signs I don't remember. Small placards reading Mitchell Construction Services and authorized by Maple Street Community Association. "You took these photos after the fact," I realize. "You planted those signs and photographed our own work to create fake invoices." Karen's smile never wavers. "That's a serious accusation, Mr. Hawkins. Do you have proof?" The room goes silent. 23 neighbors who've known me for years, sitting there like strangers. Some avoiding my eyes, others watching with what looks like pity. Have you ever felt completely alone in a room full of people you thought were friends? "The association has voted," Linda announces. "Violation stands, payment due within 7 days, or we proceed with legal action." Karen stands up, Linda mirroring her movement perfectly. "This meeting is adjourned. Thank you all for your civic participation." As neighbors file out, not one of them looks at me. Not Ted, not Mrs. Patterson, not Jim Bradley. 23 people who borrowed my tools, shared barbecues in my backyard, trusted me to help with their problems. Now they're walking away like I'm the problem. The community center empties until it's just me, standing alone under the fluorescent lights, holding a folder full of documents that might as well be my death warrant. Outside, I can hear Karen and Linda talking in voices that sound like the same person having a conversation with herself. And that's when I realize this was never about community standards or property values. This was about driving me out of my own neighborhood. Susan's voice cuts through the darkness of our bedroom at 2:47 a.m. "Mike, wake up. We need to talk." I roll over to find her sitting up, laptop glowing in the dark, wearing her serious dispatcher face, the one she gets when she's about to tell someone their world just changed forever. I've been listening to the calls from that night, the night Karen called about your lawnmower. My brain struggles to catch up. "What calls?" 4 calls, Mike. 4 separate calls in 1 hour. She turns the laptop toward me, and I see waveforms on the screen, audio files. Karen called 911 4 times between 11:15 and 12:15 that night. I sit up fully now, sleep forgotten. "You recorded her?" "I record everything. It's my job." Susan clicks play on the first file. Karen's voice fills our bedroom, but it's different from her public performance voice. Sharper, more demanding. "This is Karen Mitchell at 847 Maple Street. I need police to respond to a noise disturbance immediately. My neighbor is operating heavy machinery at nearly midnight." Susan clicks to the second call. Same voice, 20 minutes later. "This is Karen Mitchell again. Your officers haven't arrived yet. This man is clearly violating city ordinances, and I need this addressed now. Third call, Karen Mitchell, 847 Maple Street. I'm calling for the third time about this noise violation. If your officers don't respond within the next 10 minutes, I'm calling the mayor's office. The fourth call makes my blood freeze. This is my final call. If you can't handle a simple noise complaint, I'll make sure everyone knows about your department's incompetence. I have connections, and I use them. Susan closes the laptop. Mike, she wasn't just reporting a noise complaint. She was creating a paper trail. 4 documented calls, escalating language, threats about connections. She wanted everything on record. But why? Because she knew I'd be working dispatch that night. She knew I'd have to log everything, record everything, document everything. Susan's voice drops. She was building a case, and she was using my own job to do it. The pieces start falling into place like dominoes. Karen researched our schedules, knew when Susan worked, knew when I'd be alone in the yard. The whole lawnmower incident was staged. There's more, Susan says. After the fourth call, I heard her talking to someone else. The line didn't disconnect clean, and I caught about 30 seconds of conversation. She plays another file. Karen's voice, but now she sounds relaxed, almost celebratory. Linda, it's working perfectly. The idiot fell right into it. Yes, 4 calls, all documented. Tomorrow, we start phase 2 with the association papers. Then Linda's voice, identical, but slightly raspier. What about the wife? She might be a problem if she figures it out. Susan won't be a problem. She's too ethical to use her job against us and too scared of losing it to make waves. Besides, by the time she realizes what's happening, we'll already own this neighborhood. The recording ends, and our bedroom fills with terrible silence. They planned this whole thing, Susan whispers. The association, the fake debts, the neighbor pressure, all of it designed to isolate you, make you look like the problem. I think about Ted's trembling hands, Mrs. Patterson's averted eyes, Jim Bradley's confused face. How many of our neighbors got the same treatment? Fake invoices, manufactured debts, fear-based manipulation. Susan, you could lose your job for sharing this with me. She looks at me with that steady dispatcher calm. Mike, these women are systematically destroying our neighborhood with lies and financial manipulation. They're using fake construction invoices to steal money from people on fixed incomes. They threatened an elderly man with losing his house. She closes the laptop with a decisive snap. I took an oath to serve and protect. Sometimes that means protecting your community from predators, even if they wear pink cardigans. What do we do with this? We're careful, we're smart, and we make sure they don't see us coming. Susan slides the laptop into her nightstand drawer. Because, Mike, there's something else. I ran the plates on those identical cars in Karen's driveway. And? Registered to different names, but same address. Linda Mitchell and Karen Mitchell. But here's the weird part. Linda's license was issued 6 months ago. Before that, no Linda Mitchell anywhere in the system. 6 months ago, right around the time neighbors started having mysterious property issues that required expensive repairs. It's like she didn't exist until she needed to. Susan nods. And Mike, I did some checking on Mitchell Construction Services. It's real, it's licensed, and it's been billing the city for community improvement projects all over the county. Projects that residents swear they never authorized. The implications hit like a cold slap. This isn't just about our neighborhood. Karen and Linda have been running this scam across multiple communities, using fake homeowner associations to generate legitimate-looking invoices for work that either never happened or was done by volunteers. How many neighborhoods? At least 6 that I can confirm. All the same pattern. Sudden formation of homeowner associations, retroactive billing for improvements, and systematic pressure campaigns against residents who resist. I stare at the ceiling, trying to process it all. They're not just trying to drive me out, are they? No, Mike. I think they're trying to drive out anyone who might organize resistance. Anyone who might ask too many questions or rally the neighbors. Susan's voice hardens. They want a community full of people like Ted, scared, isolated, and too financially desperate to fight back. Through our bedroom window, Karen's house sits dark and quiet. But I know they're in there, probably planning tomorrow's moves, figuring out which neighbor to pressure next, which fear to exploit. The question is, what happens when they realize Susan and I know the truth? The knock comes at 6:23 a.m., sharp and demanding. Through the peephole, I see two police officers and a woman in a county inspector's jacket. Behind them, Karen and Linda stand on my sidewalk like matching bookends, both holding clipboards and wearing identical satisfied expressions. Michael Hawkins? The lead officer holds up an official-looking document. We have a warrant to inspect the premises for code violations and potential safety hazards. My coffee mug hits the kitchen counter harder than intended. What kind of violations? Unauthorized commercial operation, improper electrical installations, potential fire hazards. The inspector steps forward, a thin woman with tired eyes and the look of someone who's seen every scam in the book. We received multiple complaints about dangerous conditions affecting neighborhood safety. Through the window, I watch more neighbors gathering. Mrs. Patterson peers from behind her curtains. Ted Morrison stands in his driveway, hands shoved deep in his pockets. Even Jim Bradley's there, looking confused but compliant. Can I see the warrant? The officer hands it over, and my heart sinks. Everything's there. Judge's signature, legal seals, specific allegations. Someone's been very thorough. Mr. Hawkins, the inspector says, pulling on latex gloves. This will go faster if you cooperate. We're just here to assess safety compliance. I lead them to the garage, my mind racing. My workshop's clean, organized, everything up to code. I built it myself, following every regulation, getting every permit. There's nothing dangerous here. But as we approach the garage door, I smell something that stops me cold. Gasoline. The inspector notices too. Sir, step back please. She signals the officers, who immediately move to flank the garage door. I hit the opener, and the door rolls up to reveal a disaster. My workbench is soaked in what looks like motor oil. Gas cans are tipped over, their contents spreading across the concrete floor. Extension cords dangle in the mess, creating what any inspector would see as a massive fire hazard. Jesus, one officer mutters, stepping back from the fumes. The inspector's camera starts clicking. Sir, this is an extremely dangerous situation. Electrical equipment in contact with flammable liquids, improper storage of hazardous materials, inadequate ventilation. This isn't how I left it. My voice sounds weak even to me. Someone did this. Someone came in here and... Mr. Hawkins, Karen's voice cuts through from the sidewalk, sickeningly sweet. Are you suggesting someone broke into your garage to, what, spill gasoline? Linda steps up beside her sister, consulting her clipboard. Officer, we have documentation of concerning behavior patterns. Late-night activity, unusual chemical odors, residents reporting headaches and respiratory issues. That's not true, I say, but even I can hear how desperate I sound. The inspector seals an evidence bag containing one of my oil-soaked shop rags. Mr. Hawkins, I'm issuing an immediate safety closure on this structure. No one enters until it's professionally cleaned and re-inspected. Yellow tape goes up around my garage, my tools, my workbench, everything I've built over 15 years, sealed away like a crime scene. There's more, the second officer says, studying his notes. We also need to address the noise complaints and potential zoning violations for commercial activity. Commercial activity? It's a hobby workshop. Karen produces a folder, thick with papers. Officer, we have signed statements from multiple residents about ongoing disturbances, industrial equipment operating at all hours, chemical fumes, constant traffic of people seeking repairs. Traffic? The only traffic is neighbors borrowing tools or asking for help with projects. But as Karen spreads the documents on the hood of the police car, I see photos that make my stomach drop. My garage with a steady stream of neighbors coming and going. Ted picking up a borrowed drill. Mrs. Patterson's son dropping off a broken chair I'd offered to fix. Jim Bradley loading lumber I'd helped him carry. Innocent moments twisted into evidence of illegal commercial operation. We also have noise readings, Linda adds, producing a digital device. Decibel measurements taken at various times, showing consistent violations of residential noise ordinances. The inspector nods, making notes. Mr. Hawkins, operating a commercial repair business from a residential garage requires special permits, zoning approval, and safety inspections. I don't operate a business. I help neighbors. Helping neighbors by accepting payment or goods in exchange for services constitutes commercial activity under County Code 14.7. Payment? I've never charged anyone for anything. But as the pieces fall into place, I realize what they've done. Every time I accepted a beer while fixing someone's fence, every time someone bought pizza to share while we worked on their deck, every small gesture of neighborly gratitude, Karen and Linda have documented it as evidence of commercial transactions. The fine for operating without proper permits is $5,000, the inspector continues, plus cleanup costs for hazardous materials, estimated at $3,000, and ongoing daily penalties until full compliance is achieved. $8,000, plus daily fines. The officers and inspector pack up their equipment and drive away, leaving me standing in my driveway with yellow tape around my garage and a stack of violations that might as well be an eviction notice. Karen and Linda approach, their identical smiles sharp as broken glass. "Mike," Karen says, her voice dripping with fake concern, "this could all go away, you know. The association has discretionary authority over code enforcement matters." Linda nods. "A simple agreement to relocate your activities to an appropriate location, plus a small administrative fee to cover our investigation costs." "How much?" $15,000, Karen says, "plus your voluntary resignation from the neighborhood, an agreement to sell your property within 60 days. The neighbors who'd gathered to watch the show start drifting back to their houses. None of them meet my eyes. None of them offer support or ask questions. Ted Morrison pauses at the end of my driveway, turns back like he wants to say something, then just shakes his head and walks away. Standing there in the morning sun, surrounded by yellow tape and official violations, watching my neighbors abandon me one by one, I understand something with crystal clarity. Karen and Linda Mitchell haven't just been planning to drive me out of this neighborhood. They've been planning to buy it out from under everyone, one manufactured crisis at a time. And I might be the only person left who's willing to fight back. The hardware store's back office smells like sawdust and old coffee, but Danny Chen's got something stronger brewing. My neighbor's hunched over a microscope, examining samples from my garage floor with the focused intensity of a crime scene investigator. "This is synthetic motor oil mixed with Coleman camping fuel," Danny says, not looking up from the microscope. "Plus about 3 tablespoons of red food coloring to make it look worse than it is." Danny works at the county environmental lab, has a chemistry degree from state, and the kind of methodical mind that takes things apart molecule by molecule. When I showed up at his door this morning with evidence bags, he didn't ask questions, just grabbed his kit and got to work. "Someone wanted to create maximum visual impact without actual danger," he continues. "Smart, actually, looks terrifying, smells awful, but won't actually explode if you light a match near it." "Can you prove it was planted?" Danny finally looks up, his eyes bright behind thick glasses. "Mike, I can do better than that. This particular brand of synthetic oil, it's not sold at regular auto stores. Only place in the county that carries it is Murphy's Hardware. Murphy's Hardware, where Karen's husband Tom works as assistant manager. There's more." Danny opens his laptop, showing me surveillance footage. "My cousin Jerry works the night shift at Murphy's. I asked him to check their security cameras from yesterday. On the screen, I watch a figure in dark clothes and a baseball cap purchasing camping fuel, synthetic oil, and red food coloring at 11:47 p.m. The timestamp shows it was bought just hours before my garage was sabotaged. The person pays cash, keeps their head down, but as they turn to leave, the camera catches a profile shot. Linda Mitchell. "Jerry's willing to testify to this purchase if needed," Danny says. "And Mike, there's something else you need to know about these Mitchell sisters." He pulls up another window on his laptop. Property records, business filings, court documents. "I ran some searches after you told me about the identical cars and the fake construction company. Linda Mitchell didn't exist in any database until 6 months ago. Susan found the same thing. But I dug deeper. Linda Mitchell's social security number belongs to Linda Parker, who died in a car accident in Arizona 2 years ago. Someone's using a dead woman's identity." The pieces click together like a lock opening. "So, we don't actually know who this second woman is." "Correct. Could be Karen's actual sister using a stolen identity. Could be a hired partner. Could be anyone. But whoever she is, she's been helping Karen run systematic fraud across multiple communities. Danny shows me more documents, police reports from other counties, complaints filed with the state attorney general, news articles about fake homeowner associations. The Mitchell sisters' con game spans at least 3 states, always the same pattern. Sudden association formation, retroactive billing, pressure campaigns against resistors. They pick neighborhoods with older residents on fixed incomes, Danny explains. People who can't afford lawyers, can't risk their homes, and are too scared to organize resistance. Except this time they picked wrong. This time they picked you. Danny grins, and for the first time in days, I feel something like hope. Mike, I've got lab access, security footage, chemical evidence, and a cousin who's pissed off about being used in a fraud scheme. What do you want to do with all this? Before I can answer, my phone buzzes with a text from Susan. Emergency at home. Come now. The drive back to Maple Street feels like the longest 5 minutes of my life. Susan's police training taught her to stay calm in crisis situations, but her text has an edge of panic I've never seen before. I pull into our driveway to find Susan standing on the porch, holding what looks like legal papers. Her face is pale, her hands steady, but her eyes hold the kind of controlled fury that makes smart people step back. They filed an emergency restraining order, she says without preamble, claiming you made verbal threats against Karen and Linda during yesterday's inspection. That's impossible. I barely spoke to them. I know, but they have witnesses. Mrs. Patterson, Ted Morrison, and Jim Bradley all signed statements saying they heard you make threatening comments. The world tilts sideways. 3 neighbors I've known for years, 3 people who've shared meals at my table, just signed their names to lies that could destroy my life. Susan, they're lying. You know they're lying. Of course they're lying. But Mike, this restraining order means you can't be within 100 yards of Karen or Linda. You can't attend association meetings, can't approach them in public, can't even walk past their house. She hands me the papers, and I see the genius of their next move. If I can't confront them publicly, can't attend meetings, can't organize resistance, then they have free rein to continue pressuring the other neighbors. There's more, Susan continues. They're calling an emergency association vote tomorrow night. Motion to declare your property a community safety hazard and begin proceedings to force a sale. Can they do that? If enough neighbors vote yes, they can make your life so expensive and legally complicated that selling becomes your only option. Susan's dispatch training shows in her clipped, professional tone. Mike, they're not just trying to drive you out anymore. They're trying to steal your house. Through our front window, I can see Karen's house. Both identical cars in the driveway. Both sisters probably inside planning their next move. In less than 24 hours, they've turned my garage into a hazmat site, manufactured criminal charges, and convinced 3 of my oldest neighbors to commit perjury. But they made one mistake. They underestimated what a man will do when someone tries to steal everything he's worked for. Susan, how much trouble would you get in for sharing those 911 recordings with Danny's cousin at the hardware store? She studies my face carefully. Mike, what are you thinking? I'm thinking it's time Karen and Linda found out what happens when they pick on the wrong neighborhood. Have you ever reached that point where playing by the rules feels like letting the bullies win? Where being the better person just means being the bigger victim? Tomorrow night's meeting isn't just about my house anymore. It's about whether good people can still fight back when someone tries to destroy their community with lies. The community center buzzes with nervous energy as neighbors file in for what everyone knows might be the final vote. Karen sits at the front table in her signature pink blazer, Linda beside her in identical attire, both shuffling through their familiar stack of official-looking papers. But tonight feels different. Tonight, I'm not standing alone. Danny Chen sits in the back row, laptop bag at his feet, looking like he's got secrets burning holes in his pockets. Susan's positioned herself near the door, her dispatch radio clipped to her belt, still on duty, but here in an official capacity that Karen can't challenge. And Ted Morrison sits in the front row, but not where you'd expect. He's on my side of the room, hands folded, jaw set with the kind of determination I haven't seen from him in years. Thank you all for attending this emergency session, Karen begins, her voice carrying that artificial authority. Tonight we vote on motion 2024-07. Declaration of 847 Maple Street as a community safety hazard requiring immediate remediation or forced sale. Linda stands up, consulting her clipboard. The evidence is overwhelming. Chemical contamination, illegal commercial operations, documented threats against association leadership. Point of order. Ted Morrison's voice cuts through the room like a church bell. He stands slowly, his weathered carpenter's hands steady now. I'd like to address some concerns about the evidence presented. Karen's smile falters. Ted, you're not on tonight's agenda. Actually, Susan calls from the back, according to Robert's Rules of Order, any association member can request to speak during new business. And since this association claims to follow legal procedures, Linda whispers something urgent to Karen, but it's too late. Ted's already walking to the front of the room. Folks, I need to tell you something, Ted begins, his voice gaining strength with every word. 3 days ago, Karen Mitchell came to my house with a bill for $800, said I owed it for fence repairs that we all did together, as neighbors for free. Murmurs ripple through the crowd. Mrs. Patterson shifts uncomfortably in her seat. She threatened to put a lien on my house if I didn't pay, but she offered me a deal, sign a petition against Mike, and the debt would disappear. Ted's voice cracks. I was scared. I'm 72 years old, living on Social Security, and $800 might as well be $8,000. Karen tries to interrupt. Ted, this is hardly relevant to... It's completely relevant, Ted snaps, showing more fire than I've seen from him in years. Because that bill was fake. The work was done by volunteers. The receipts were forged. And I wasn't the only one who got threatened. He turns to face the crowd. How many of you got visits from Karen and Linda? How many got fake bills for work we did ourselves? How many were told to sign papers or face financial ruin? Slowly, hands start to rise. Mrs. Patterson first, then Jim Bradley, then others. More than half the room. I should have spoken up sooner, Ted continues. Should have stood with Mike from the beginning. But I was scared of losing my home. Now I'm more scared of what happens to our neighborhood if we let these con artists succeed. Karen's face goes red. These are serious accusations without proof. Actually, Danny Chen says, standing up with his laptop, we have plenty of proof. The room goes silent as Danny connects his computer to the community center's projector. The screen fills with security footage from Murphy's Hardware. Linda Mitchell purchasing synthetic oil and camping fuel at 11:47 p.m. This is Linda Mitchell buying the exact chemicals found in Mike's garage, Danny explains. Purchased hours before the supposed hazardous materials were discovered during the inspection. Gasps echo through the room. Linda goes pale, but Karen recovers quickly. That proves nothing. Linda could have been buying supplies for legitimate purposes. Like identity theft, Susan's voice carries the authority of 20 years in law enforcement. She walks to the front, holding a folder thick with documents. Linda Mitchell is using the Social Security number of Linda Parker, who died in Arizona 2 years ago. Her driver's license, credit history, even her business partnerships, all based on a stolen identity. The room erupts in shocked whispers. Karen looks like she's seeing ghosts, but she's not finished fighting. Even if these wild accusations were true, Karen says desperately, it doesn't change the fact that Mike Hawkins has been operating an illegal business from his garage, disturbing the peace, violating community standards. You mean helping neighbors? Mrs. Patterson's voice is quiet but clear. She stands slowly, looking older than her 58 years. Karen, Mike fixed my fence for free. He's been shoveling my driveway every winter for 3 years. When my son needed a job reference, Mike wrote one that got him hired at the plant. Her voice gets stronger. You made me sign a paper saying he was running a commercial operation. Made me feel like I was protecting my property values. But all he ever did was help people. Jim Bradley stands up next. Same here. Mike helped me move furniture when my back was out. Never asked for a penny. You made it sound like he was some kind of criminal, but he's the best neighbor I've ever had. One by one, they stand. Neighbors who'd signed the original petition, who'd voted for association measures, who'd been scared into compliance by manufactured debts and fake legal threats. All standing up for the truth. Karen and Linda exchange desperate glances. Their perfect coordination is cracking, their identical composure fracturing under the weight of exposed lies. This is a conspiracy, Karen says, her voice rising to a shrill pitch. "You're all being manipulated by a man who threatened me, who operates dangerous equipment, who recorded every conversation," Susan interrupts, pulling out her dispatch recorder, "including the one where you and Linda discussed using my job to build a case against my husband. The one where Linda said I'd be too scared of losing my job to make waves." She presses play, and Karen's voice fills the community center. "Susan won't be a problem. She's too ethical to use her job against us, and too scared of losing it to make waves. Besides, by the time she realizes what's happening, we'll already own this neighborhood." The silence that follows is deafening. Ted Morrison walks over to the association documents spread across the front table. Without ceremony, he tears up his signed petition, lets the pieces flutter to the floor. Mrs. Patterson does the same, then Jim Bradley, then every neighbor who'd been pressured into compliance. Karen and Linda are left standing alone at the front of the room, their matching pink blazers now looking less like professional attire and more like costumes in a play that nobody wants to watch anymore. "I move to dissolve this association," Ted announces. "All in favor?" Every hand in the room goes up except two. "Motion carried," Susan says with official authority. "This association is hereby dissolved. All fines and penalties are voided, and all financial obligations are nullified." Karen tries one last desperate play. "You can't do this. We have legal standing, incorporation papers, binding agreements." "Built on fraud," Danny says, saving his laptop files, "and identity theft and extortion. The FBI's Financial Crimes Unit is going to love this case study." As the meeting breaks up, neighbors who had avoided me for weeks now approach with apologies, explanations, and the kind of genuine remorse that rebuilds trust one handshake at a time. Ted Morrison comes up last, his carpenter's handshake firm and sure. "Mike, I'm sorry I ever doubted you. These old hands have built a lot of things over the years, but I never learned how to build courage until tonight." Through the community center windows, I watch two identical silver cars pull out of the parking lot and disappear into the darkness. Karen and Linda Mitchell, heading for whatever new community they'll try to victimize next. But they won't find it as easy as they thought. Danny's already contacted authorities in 3 states. Susan's filed her recordings with the FBI. And sometimes, when word gets around about scam artists, other neighborhoods know to watch out. 3 weeks later, I'm back in my garage, workshop cleaned and reopened, helping Mrs. Patterson repair her back fence. Ted's there too, along with Jim Bradley and half a dozen other neighbors. We work together like we always have. No association meetings, no official oversight, no manufactured drama. Just neighbors helping neighbors, the way it's supposed to be. The only difference now is that everyone knows what they almost lost, and nobody's willing to let outsiders destroy it again. Because sometimes the best community standards aren't written in official documents or enforced by fake associations. Sometimes they're just decent people looking out for each other, one favor at a time. And that's something no con artist can ever take away from you, no matter how many pink cardigans they wear or how many lies they tell. If you've made it this far, drop a comment and let me know. Have you ever had to stand up to someone trying to destroy your community? Because trust me, it's worth the fight.